Assalamu alaikum to everyone, especially to my dear students. I am Peer Muhammad Iqbal, lecturer, Commerce, Boys Higher Secondary School, Vilagam. My dear students, in the previous lessons we talked about delegation of authority and decentralization of authority. Today we may try to see that our topic is difference between delegation and decentralization of authority. And this lesson is for the students of 12th class business studies. My dear students, delegation and decentralization of authority are the two sides of the same coin. And these both concepts are very important in an organization. I have told you that delegation of authority is assigning a part of the duty by a superior to his immediate subordinate. But in decentralization, there is a total flow there is flow of authority from top to bottom. In delegation of authority, the duty or authority delegated by a person to his immediate subordinate cannot be entirely delegated to the subordinate, but to the higher ups of the delegator, the person who delegates the authority is responsible, not his subordinate. That is why this in the delegation of authority, some of a part of the duty of a particular superior is assigned to the subordinate in order to reduce the burden of that top executive. It is a bilateral issue between the superior and subordinate. However, in case of decentralization of authority, there is a total dispersal of authority from top to bottom, even to from top to middle, and middle from top management to middle management, and from middle to ground level. And with the delegation, with the decentralization of powers, the authority is also given to the people to do the work in order to reduce the burden of top executives and to create a harmonious environment in an organization. This decentralization gives an opportunity to develop the managers, and it gives a sense of belongingness to the lower level managers or lower level workers who think themselves as a part of the management. As a result, they do their work or they perform their duties honestly with zeal and zest, and there becomes a work culture into the organization, and the production process or providing of services, whatever the nature of the work be in the organization, will flourish. Dear students, some main points of difference between delegation and decentralization are mentioned here below. Number first is in case of the nature. The nature of delegation is separate from the nature of decentralization of authority. Delegation is the process of devolution of authority, while decentralization is the end result which is achieved when authority is delegated at different levels. My dear students, as uh, already discussed with you, delegation is a bilateral issue. It is between the superior and the subordinate. But in case of decentralization, the authority there is the authority is delegated at all levels, not between the two persons, but all levels from top to bottom and from top to middle and middle to bottom. Delegation is the cause, decentralization is the result. Decentralization is the result. Delegation can take place without decentralization, but decentralization is not possible without delegation of authority. It is the first point. It is the first point, that is the nature of difference. This is the nature. This is the first point of difference between delegation of authority and decentralization of authority. And second point can be, secondly, we can differentiate between the delegation and decentralization in the terms of scope. So far as the scope is concerned, delegation of authority is concerned to a manager and his subordinate in uh, in a work unit. It refers to granting authority by one individual to another. It takes place when a manager charges his shares, rather his authority, with his subordinates and empowers them to and empowers them to decide and act on his behalf in respect of the tasks assigned to them. My dear students, on the other hand, decentralization involves systematic dispersal of authority at all levels and in all functions of organization. Not a single function is decentralized. Not a single duty is decentralized. But all the functions at all the levels, decentralization takes place. It is a huge dispersal of authority. It is an extension of delegation to the lowest level. As already, my dear students, told to you, from top to bottom, middle, and middle to ground level, lowest levels, this decentralization, the authority is delegated, which is named as decentralization. Delegation creates a relationship between two individuals, while decentralization creates a relationship between top management and the rest of the organization. As already told you, delegation is a bilateral issue between the two persons, a top executive and his subordinate, while as the decentralization is the systematic dispersal of authority at all levels, even to the ground level, from top to the those lower levels of the organization. Thus, decentralization is wider in scope and consequences consequences. Thus, decentralization is wider in scope and consequences than delegation. My dear students, it was the second point of uh, differentiation between what we can say, the distinction rather between delegation of authority and decentralization of authority. And the third one is significance. Significance, on the basis of significance, we can differentiate between delegation of authority and decentralization of authority. Delegation is a means of getting things done through others. Here by delegation we mean getting things done through others. It is almost an essential technique because a manager cannot do everything himself. But decentralization is a philosophy of management. Here, delegation is a technique and decentralization is a philosophy. The top management, the top management may or may not adopt it. It rests on the shoulders of top management. Whether they are able to retain the whole authority or they are not in a position to retain whole of the authority and disperse this to the lower levels, it depends upon the top management. So delegation is a small activity, but we can say that decentralization is a philosophy where the management needs that the authority is to be retained. They are at the helm of affairs, they can retain the authority, and while they feel that for the betterment of organization and for the speedy uh, uh, for the for speeding up the operations of the organization where delegation is necessary, they can delegate the authority in terms of decentralization. My dear students, last point of distinction between this delegation and decentralization of authority is freedom of action. My dear students, I have already told you in case of delegation of authority, the authority duty is assigned to a subordinate, but authority is given to him to perform that duty, but the responsibility is not uh, delegated to him. Responsibility is not given to him. This part of duty or authority is delegated by a superior in his own interest or in the interest of organization in order to reduce the burden of his shoulders to uh, to in order to reduce the burden of his own burden, and he delegates the authority to his subordinate. But in case of decentralization, the authority is delegated in a wide range, and the people to whom authority is delegated, they are given freedom to act freely in order to perform their duties in a best possible way. So, in the case of delegation, there is less freedom to the person to whom authority is delegated, but in the case of decentralization of authority, the freedom of authority is given to the people to whom authority is delegated to take the decisions and to perform the various activities without any hesitation or uh, without any without any difficulty. My dear students, I think in today's lesson it is enough about the distinction between or difference between delegation of authority and decentralization of authority. Inshallah, I think it is enough today. Inshallah, see you into the next lesson. Till then, goodbye.